All right, hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to be stamping out some background skies in this case. And we're going to do most of them on glossy cardstock. I might try something on the foil here if we have some time here. But I have some different sizes here. Standard half page size glossy cardstock and quarter page pieces right here, but I also have some squares. I always say that I need to stamp on some different things other than rectangles once in a while. Circles and ovals would be good. I'll have I don't know, some of those cut out at some point in time, but let's try the 5x5 squares here too. Okay, so that being said, let's get right into it. All right, so this is glossy cardstock, not glossy photo paper, okay? You can do some things on glossy photo paper where you'd use different types of media for that, not what I'm going to be doing on here. Okay, so let's just get some backgrounds going, and I'll do this really fast. And I'll talk about the process of using different sky imagery and how to kind of designate your light areas, your light sources within a scene. We'll do a moon as a light source and some different types of star imagery. Hello, Debbie. How are you? And let's see. Let's just go from there. Okay, so it looks like I have some black ink on this one. I didn't clean that off. Let's clean that off a little bit. Now I want to go for some pretty dark night skies. Okay. So these are going to be, I'm going to be mostly doing silhouette stamping over my backgrounds, all right? So I'm going to take these backgrounds a little bit darker than I normally would if I have open style imagery anywhere in the foreground. So, like any kind of land areas or anything like that where I need to retain some areas of light to potentially put like a, little subject matter in there, a person or an animal that I want illuminated. I'm not gonna, I might add something like that in at some point in time, but I'm not really going to be kind of working around that kind of idea. Okay, so just, know that going into this right here. Okay, so we can do any color scheme we want to on these pieces, these nighttime sky things. I'd recommend, doing, I don't know, branching out, not just thinking about something like, okay, wait a minute, is this nighttime sky, would it have green in it, or anything like that. Just do any type of jewel tone thing, scenarios. And that's something that I do. Like if I'm stamping something for someone, I don't know, someone's got a birthday or I don't know, or something like that. I generally ask them what kind of, what's their favorite color as one of the bases for some sort of specific targeted, aesthetic preference, but color schemes are one of them. Hello, Debbie. Cynthia, good to see you all. How is everyone? Okay, so this is the star birth stamp. And maybe I'll use the Milky Way after this one, but anytime you have anything like this, these little stars on here, what we want to do is, now, I mean, you could stamp this out very lightly in a light blue or something like that. If you want it to kind of really recess in the background and it's going to be something that's more of a texture. But if we want these types of things on here to stand out a little bit more, what you do is you go with at least a medium tone color of whatever color scheme you're doing to darker, okay? The darker we stamp out these different types of sky imagery, the more colors we can apply over the top of them in our, color layering process without the imagery disappearing. I mean, right? Makes sense. If I stamp these out in a light blue and I go with a medium blue over the top of it, we're not going to really be able to see the forms anymore. So you have to be a little bit more delicate the lighter you stamp these out. So, I mean, you could, if you want to, you can even stamp these out in black or something like that. But I'm not going to do that because I want to retain black for my foreground imagery, my, in this case, my desert imagery over the background. So I don't want to stamp this too close to black, okay? All right, so that being said, how about yeah, let me see, my blue here is not a good one here. The pad is like totally recessed due to its age. Okay, so I'm thinking about, on this one, I want to go with, I really like the look of like an emerald green color scenario when I think of like these jewel-toned color schemes. So you can do it if you're blending colors, like, yellow greens and I don't know what color that is, like a cobalt blue or whatever, navy blue, all that type of thing. I mean, what color you stamp out your imagery in, does matter, but you can do it anything within that entire color scheme. Okay, so let's see. I wanted to go with my blue there, but this bottle green is kind of, it's just as dark as this kind of navy blue right here. But when I blend all these colors over the top of it, it's not really going to make that big of a difference, okay? Because there's going to be blues in there now, you know what I mean? So if I just stamped out in blue, but I used like yellow-green over the top, it would look green anyway, okay? And vice versa, so keep that in mind, if you know some, the basics of color blending and how to create, whatever, secondary colors by mixing colors together, blue and yellow and whatever, pink and blue, for purple. You can really utilize that in your strategies here, okay? All right, so a couple different impressions of that. That bottle green looks pretty good. Maybe that was better than that navy blue. The bottle green Marvy, I think, it's probably a little bit richer than that number 3 blue from them. Okay, so if you're doing that, I don't know, you substitute whatever, colors you have. If you don't have Marvies, this one's just kind of a really deep green, okay? But like I said, most of us have, oh my God, my stamp right here, my cloud cumulus is covered in glitter. Hello, Vintage Scrap Girl! I wonder if you're going to get some more rain, Vintage Scrap Girl. We're expecting it here on Monday. Okay, this is the cloud cumulus. I'm stamping it in green as well. Now, of course, I transferred all that glitter onto my pad, so I don't know. I guess there's no turning back from glitter. All right, now down here is going to be, this is like up and down right here. So I'm wondering if I want to go in with these clouds down here or not. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. We almost don't need to really tone this in if you want to keep, things like this. Okay, now one of the things I should note is that I'm overlapping my previous cloud, but I'm also overlapping into the Starbirth, right? And I'm doing it like in half of an inch to about an inch. And see this right here? See these clouds right here? That impression is like that. And the next one is like that. So you change the angle with each impression, okay? Now, one of the things I haven't done, if you haven't stamped, sky imagery before, one of the things I recommend is you just kind of wipe off the edge like this before you stamp it out, so that when you're overlapping into, the previous impression, if it's a little bit lighter around the edges where you're overlapping like that, it can make for a little bit more of a graceful merger of those two. But you can see it right here. I mean, I didn't do that and it's still, you can't really see like a, a harsh line in between or anything like that. But also on these backgrounds, I'm going to be adding a ton of tone in here anyway. So for me, I'm not really doing that. And pressure-wise, when I'm doing this, I'm kind of more centrally pressured like this. I'm holding my stamp like this, but I'm kind of stamping it in the middle like that. And I don't know how you do that. Maybe with if you're doing a stamp positioner and you're flipping that lid over, maybe press in the middle of it more than the outer perimeter of the stamp, and I think that would distribute your pressure, well. So when I do this, the pressure's right here and not around at the edges, and those edges are the things that I don't want to have showing between one impression and the next. Okay, now this is going to be really dark down here because this is going to be ground, so I'm going to be kind of eradicating most of those clouds anyways. I want a lot of heavy silhouettes in these pieces. I want like a lot of drama, for the sky. All right. Hello, Sharita. Good to see you. So someone was just asking me about glossy cardstock. They got some glossy, but then they were thinking about semi-gloss, and they said, well, what are your thoughts on semi-gloss? If you want something that's really kind of, that wants, you want to maximize drama and color saturation and intensity, glossy is the one, because it's going to retain more of your media that you apply on the surface. It's not getting absorbed into the pulp of the paper or beyond the surface as much, okay? But the thing about glossy is it's sealed off so much. So if I'm trying to use something like colored pencils on here, there's no tooth to it at all. There's no texture that things like colored pencils and pastels really depend on to grab onto the surface. So I can't use colored pencils on something like this. But the semi-gloss does take colored pencils pretty well. Matte takes it better, of course. But semi-gloss is it's a nice kind of compromise because you get a lot of the media retention, but it's still porous enough to where it can accept at least Prismacolors. I don't know about like, other brands of colored pencils. Maybe not as much, but it's a good choice for that. And I mean, like semi-gloss isn't like, you don't lose, it's not, we're not dropping out like, like 70% of the intensity of, glossy or something like that. It's probably 15% or something like that, or 20% drop off in terms of the most extreme intensities. And I said, if you're just coloring, if we use like one layer of color on this, like I just want to add in a little bit of yellow or yellow-green to this, to add some tone into this, then, you know what I mean? Going with something like this or a semi-gloss isn't going to really make very much difference. But I'm going to go with, maybe about 3 or 4 layers of additional color on here. And that's when the glossy cardstocks really kind of shine in terms of what their abilities or capabilities are in terms of the finished result. That's why I always tell people like movie posters and book covers and things like that are all printed on glossy cardstock, because you want to be able to, whatever production studio or publisher, for a book, they want, their product to get attention from across the room, and glossy is just going to do that better than a matte or a satin, semi-gloss or something like that, but it's only slightly, but I don't know, for those different manufacturers, it's it costs the same, so they might as well go for that extra 5-10% bump in potential intensity and color saturation. Okay, so let's go with another one right here. This is the Nebula. I just want to go for some kind of like space type of thing up here. And this is a really dark color here. But the imagery is a little bit lighter. It's more tonal, so I'll go with that. here. All right, see, it's more tonal. There's less kind of solid area than the Starbirth image, okay? So I can go with a darker tone on here without it getting so super dark in the background that when I stamp my silhouette imagery over the top of it, we're not really be able to see them. You know what I mean? If it was really too dark back there, I go black over really dark. The contrast isn't going to be enough to, kind of separate the foreground from the background very much. So on a more tonal design like that, you can go really dark. An extreme example, if anyone knows the line really well, is as far as the sky imagery goes, it's the Aurora Borealis, especially the curtains one. That one's really kind of, tonal and delicate. So that on that one, you would really want to use a really dark color to stamp out the imagery in. Although I have seen it stamped out very lightly too, but again, it was just more of a super subtle kind of background. Okay, so we have that right there. I want to go for some kind of more purpley looking tones too, so let's just take care of this one. I was going to do another image, maybe another background in this dark blue. Let's do that here. Let's do two backgrounds kind of in bluish tones. I'll tweak one of them though. Maybe I'll go with this one. I'll go blues and I'll kind of go a little bit more violet. And this one maybe more just a range of blue tones, okay? So again, let's go with the Prussian blue. Let's like a nice deep navy blue if you have, since this is a square, I'm gonna put this moon right smack dab in the center, not the dead center right here, but we'll kind of, I'm not measuring it or anything like that, but I'll just eyeball it here. I'm putting that right in the kind of middle area. Oops, I didn't put enough pressure there. That's going to get filled in anyway, though. Hey, Janet, how's it going? What's the weather like for you, all of you up north, or northern neighbors? Okay, let's see. Let's go with a little bit of clouds. And I'm not going to go all the way down here because I have a lot of space here, and I don't want this all sky, okay? Now, on this one, I am thinking about, maybe I should wipe that off, but let's just do it. Let's just go on here without the wiping. I tell everyone, everyone new to using sky imagery or using this cloud to always wipe around the edge right here, especially when you're stamping it out in dark tones. A lot of times, too, when people get their stamps, too, if they're using acrylic blocks or something, sometimes people they put pressure like this on the stamp, and then they rock it a little bit like that. They go like this, right? And then the edges get a lot more extreme, okay? Now, this is a piece of just, copy paper, so it's a little bit more extreme. But see, we want to kind of avoid that type of thing. So again, it's more kind of like center pressuring like that, and you don't have to worry about that. And a lot of times, people too, I noticed I didn't really kind of get this until I started watching more people kind of live stream and things like that. But a lot of times their ink pads are a lot juicier than how I keep mine. I keep mine kind of medium dampness. Now, I mean, if it's a brand new pad, I'm not going to remove ink from it or something like that to get it medium, So I'll be using it, but that can make a big difference if this is like super, super saturated in ink, you know what I mean? Then my overlapping mergers of my imagery, especially in sky stamps, stand out a little bit more because there's, I don't know, in the impression there might be 20% more ink that's been used. Okay, so see how I was talking about, so if you've been on here, I was talking about with each impression I'm kind of changing the angle. Now this one's kind of extreme because I'm working around a light source. So this one impression is like this. You see that right there? And then that next impression is like that. I don't like to go 90 degrees because it's a little bit too obvious. So, going like from this to a little bit like that is better. And then see this impression right here from this one right here. See that? Or like that. It goes like that. Okay. And then this one right here. See, my light is coming from over here, so my next impression will be like that. Okay. All right, I'll stop talking about the, the technical aspects of this. And I'll get to stamping here. Okay, on this one right here, same thing. This is my, light source. Now I could put, let's do both on this one right here. Let's go, on this one right here, I was thinking about, let's have this as the, this will be top and this will be bottom right here. Let's do this right here. Let's go with some clouds right in here, like about like so. Okay. And then right up here and out here, let's fill that in with some additional imagery. Now I could use that same nebula stamp and kind of overlap it a little bit in there, but we have the Milky Way stamp right here, so let's just fill it in with that. I mean, we could use the Starbirth would be fine, this one right here. I wouldn't use it in green right in here, but, just go with the, the same color that you stamped that one in. Which is what I do most of the time. Usually with your light source in there, whatever you stamp that in, with your surrounding area, go at least as dark or darker, typically. Darker things are a little bit closer to us, that's why. So if these were like in light blue right in here, the merger wouldn't be as seamless. I mean, you can do it though, but you'd have to wipe off the edges a little bit more. I think this pad looks a little bit dry. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's dry though, does it? Okay, now on this one right here, we do have some harder edges like that, so I am going to wipe off the perimeter that's overlapping into this one a little bit. Okay, so it's going a little bit drier. And let's go into this like that. So see, that edge is like this. So I'm not doing it like that and stamping it right there. I'm going into it like this. And see, I don't really need to mask off my cloud right here because I didn't go into that cloud with this solid area right here. I just kind of went right up to it. You don't have to go, I mean, if you're off by like a ½ inch or something like that, it's not really going to matter at all. So there's a lot of leeway when doing that. Okay. And we have these other areas right here. And I just don't want to go over my nebula with this image, okay? Like that, okay? So see, that fills right in. You don't have these lines anywhere in there, and I have that little bit right there, okay? So I'm just going to hit it like that. Not with that same impression, though, because that's really dry now. I mean, that area is going to get filled in with color, too. Anyway, but doing this extra little stamping kind of right in there, that'll save us a little bit of time. So see, I'm stamping over next to this nebula right here and right over the first impression of the Milky Way like that. So we get that. That one's a lot darker, though. I see that line right there, too. Okay, that one didn't stamp out very dark. Here, I'll show you what you can do with that. Oh, I know what I did here, too. I used the darker. One of these sides is a little bit darker. So here. And let's just go over it again right here. And that should be good. You still see a little bit of that line, but again, I'm going to be using like 3 layers of color in there anyway. All right, so here's our foundations right here. I want to go with one more because I want to see this other color scheme in here too. Snow last night and a bit today. Has it been like an average winter, Janet, or is it kind of out of the ordinary for you? Sharita's afraid of the sky imagery. Don't worry, Sharita, we're right here for you. I forgot if you got some sky imagery, Sharita. You should pull some out and just stamp along here with me. If you do this cloud stamp, watch the video on the cloud cumulus stamp. I don't know if it's called, if there's a do's and don'ts of the cloud cumulus, but there's one that's just about the handling of the cloud imagery. But sky imagery should really be like the least fearful one because it's, you know, it's the most, I don't know, it's the type of imagery that you can fill in the most with. If you don't like something, you just put it in a shroud of darkness. Not really like daytime types of skies. I'm talking about nighttime types of skies. Okay, so let's go with, let's see. Let's go with something like this here. Okay, there's going to be a lighter spectrum in here, but this is just for the imagery part of it. Seeing these things right here, I don't know if I'm going to get to that foil one right here because, you know, I'm looking at these, and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about, you know, the how I want to finish these off. Now, I've already used these in another scene. I don't know, what maybe was that a couple of live streams ago? Was this last week? I don't even remember. Okay, so there's those tones in there like that. Let's do something similar to that one, but let's make it more of a nighttime type of scenario. And now this one's on the clay board again too. I think this is last week. Look at that twilight there and that gold ink. That worked out pretty good. Okay, so let's go with, let's do this. Okay, wait. I'll show you how to use this one with, let's go this way. Let's use this one with the cloud cumulus. Let's go a little bit higher than like that, maybe. Or I could just have all sky and just, you know, no land at all. I'll just have the, you know, the cacti or something like that in there. Okay, composing here in my head. All right, let's see which one of these pads is good. I hardly, let me see if this pad, one of these okay, this one's recessed. I can't use that one. That one's a little bit recessed too. My English red, it's going to be just default. It's going to be the one that's still working here. A lot of these pads are like really, really old. And this one's like crumbling here. My deep reds, I almost never stamp out my imagery in them. And I don't use them a whole lot. That's why, you know, I think they're all like that because I haven't replaced them because I'm just using them to color with. So I dip my whatever, you know, sponge applicator or a paper towel into it, so I don't need the pads to be really working very well in terms of flat applications of color. Okay, let's just go with the brown here then. All right, so let's see. I typically tilt low to high, you know, left to right for some reason. If I do it like this way at an angle, if I do angles, I don't know, it looks strange to me when doing that. I should just to, I don't know, do a change once in a while. Okay, so that's a dark brown then right here, okay? And then let's add the cloud around it, okay? Now this is kind of open down here. All right, so I'm just going to overlap right into it, but where I'm overlapping the cloud into it, I think I'll wipe off this portion of it right in here, okay? Where it's overlapping into it, okay? So Sharita, if you're doing sky imagery, and if this is like, oh, this is kind of like feeling scary to do that degree of overlapping, then what you do is you just remove a lot of the ink of whatever you're overlapping into something else. So you're just kind of stamping out a much lighter version of that portion. So see right there, I don't have any like harsh line in there. Now I have the, the formations going into the cloud, but we don't have these like rectangle shapes anywhere in there. And see, I kind of wiped it off around the perimeter right in here too. And you'll see how all these different things come together when I start adding in the tone too. So perimeter wipe. I'm not wiping off the bottom of it because it's right down here, and that's not going to be going into anything. All right, something like that. So take off a good portion of it too. Don't just go like this. Like a 32nd of an inch or something like that. I'm dabbing off a good, I don't know what it's like a ½ inch to an inch in there like that. And I'm taking a pretty aggressive swipe on it. This is a darker tone too, but you wouldn't need to do that if you're doing like a light blue or something like that where it's barely going to stamp out anyway. I could come with another little impression up here too. Let me do that here. Sometimes I like coming, from the top and the bottom with my clouds, just like the moon here. It kind of creates this kind of look of a break in the cloud. Now, if I was going to do that, make it look like a break in the clouds, I would have stamped this first, masked these off, and then stamped that. But sometimes just getting a little bit of extra texture up there is kind of fun. All right, so let's add in our tones here. I'm gonna clean I'm cleaning off here because what happens is I don't clean it off after these like live streams. I don't stay and clean all my stamps off, but if there's like really specific colors on them, what would happen is in my next stream, I can't, sometimes it's hard to tell if there's like, some residual ink on there that's dried, unless you're doing it like in black stays on or something like that. So I'd probably like ink this up with a light blue, for the next usage of it or something like that. I'm going to stamp it out in a live stream. It's going to be like some combination of dark brown and light blue. But sometimes it gives you the really cool combinations. It's really hard to achieve again if you want to try to replicate it. My best color schemes always come about from kind of unexpected, unintentional, whatever mergers of certain inks that I've used on the stamp previously. Okay, so I found some stylus tool tips. I was debating on whether or not I should use those or not. I might. I'm going to auction a bunch of them off because because I don't like using them in these live streams. But I don't know. Let me just, I'll do this first one on just with the, I don't know, some paper towels here. But I thought, God, I use those stylus tools for so long. I thought it might be fun to kind of use them again. Or at least one of them. It's been so long since I've used them, though. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's this little sponge kind of tipped tool that I used to color all my, especially glossy cardstock scenes with. Let me see here. Okay, you have 10 feet of snow and hovering about 20 to 30. Okay, very mild. I think that's what you were, Linda, weren't you saying that too? You barely had any rain up your way. We're talking about Canada here, folks. Let's see. Okay, Bonnie, got some dye inks this week. Most of mine are hybrid and pigment. Okay. Okay, so Bonnie, you're saying that most of your existing colors were hybrid and pigment until you got the dyes this week. You're due for some fun. Okay, now remember, this is on the glossy cardstock, not glossy photo paper, okay? Now you can do this type of thing. You can go for these impressions on glossy photo paper, but if you're going to color by like this kind of, this type of application of color, or if you want to do this type of application of color on photo paper, I would do it with like alcohol inks, like alcohol pens, and blend them, use your blending tool and stuff like that. If you try to do this type of application of dye-based inks on photo paper, it's like this copy paper right here. That's not going, it grabs it, and you can't really kind of move it around easily. See this right here? I'm kind of, blending this around like this. I'm using kind of a lighter touch like that, and you can manipulate that tone. Now it's not, this isn't like sopping wet or anything like that. It's not coming off my hand, especially with this first color like this. But you have time to kind of manipulate it. So that's the difference between that's another application difference between glossy cardstock and glossy photo paper, okay? They look the same and they feel the same. Sometimes when I'm holding it, I mean, I can tell, but sometimes I can't tell visually. I can tell by feeling glossy photo paper, that it's really different, okay? Now what I'm doing right here is I'm retaining some areas of light right in here and down here. On this one right here, it's not a really specific area like a moon, or a specific object like a moon or a bolt of lightning or something like that, or a star. So you just kind of designate a certain area on there that you want to retain kind of a lighter area. Now it doesn't have to be white. I mean, if I colored all this with, this, orangish yellow, then I can go with my next tone. And then the orangish yellow tone will be my, whatever lightest area in the scene, which might be good, for some of the, these scenes right in here. Instead of going with white, I tend to keep it on white. And then if I think later, it's a little bit too stark with the white, then you can always tone it out. But, if you tone it all out and then later on you decide, I should have left it a little bit lighter in there. You know what I mean? You can't really remove ink very easily. I'm not going to do some kind of bleaching process, and put some, diluted bleach on there. And you know what I mean? That'd be a hassle. So I like to just kind of retain it. So it's like cooking, and adding salt. Don't add too much. You know what I mean? You can always kind of dilute the recipe later on, with more stuff to make it, less salty. But it's always better, if you're able to just keep adding a little bit more, accordingly, or to whatever, to people's taste. Okay, so speaking of that, I just realized I'm starving. Nah, I'm joking. Okay, so that is that color right there. Let's let that. Okay, now I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna do these kind of little mass production ish. No, okay. I was gonna say let's move to the next tone, but let's go with a couple of colors on this one, and I'll go with my base coat on another one of these. On this one right here, let's go with brown here. I'm looking around here. Here's like an orange. That'd be okay too. Or again, we can do both here. Okay. No, maybe this is a lot faster than the stylus tool right here. I would never scrub like this with the stylus tool because I would rip the foam on them. I didn't used to use this kind of swirly type of application of ink before. I think it's been fairly recent. But I don't know. It goes on really smoothly though, like that. Okay, what green is that? Janet, sorry, that was a bottle green there. Let's see. So Sharita, if you ever want to see sky videos too, just type in sky, Stampscapes, sky, imagery or something like that. And there's like, I don't know, there's probably 15 videos just on skies. And some of them are doing like I'm doing here, where I just stamp out the imagery first, and then I add in my colors or something like that, and maybe video number 3 or something like that might be adding imagery over the top of it. But on some of those sky videos, it's like a 3-parter or something like that. Now, see, we can already tell. I mean, this is just like, what is that? Like, was that 3 colors right there in the background? But see that kind of that glow that we already have going on in here? That was just 2, right? Yeah, just that. It was just the yellow and this right here, okay? But see, this is where, kind of layering our colors kind of, it really pays off like this on the glossy cardstock, because that yellow in there, I mean, some of it get absorbed, stained. That's how dyes work. They stain the surfaces, okay? But see that glow in there? That's glow right there is a lot different than just like a brown directly onto, white. I mean, that's the way it would look just on here too, but we're able to layer these colors like this. And that's how you get those color glows going. It's because the transparent color over the top of the other color from underneath is showing through. These aren't physically mixing on the page, these 2 different colors here. Okay. Tapping right here a little bit more. This is where I was saying I'm going to kind of mass produce these right here, because I can tell the surface of my paper is getting a little bit, or a decent, amount of saturation. But if it's overly saturated, we have to let the inks kind of set up for a little bit, so that we're not just going wet into really damp, where that ink isn't transferring onto the surface, because again, dye-based inks need to work by staining here, okay? So you see this wiping up like that sometimes. I mean, it looks really good for blending, but sometimes when I want to get a buildup, I have to build up like little beads of ink, to get that on there. So sometimes the technique too is you build up your ink like this, okay? So if you have a little sponge, you can squeeze it out on there too, like that. And then what you do is you blend that out like that, okay? So you build up a little bit of a puddle, right? Like that on the edge, and then you go in like that too, or you blend it out like that. Now, if it removes everything, then it's getting a little bit wet, and just let it set for a little bit. I wouldn't heat set it, if unless you just absolutely don't have the time to kind of wait for it to dry a little bit. But I'm talking about like, let it sit for a couple minutes or something like, not let it sit for like a half an hour. I don't think, maybe it was really cold, or something like that in your location, then maybe you got to let it set, for a little bit longer. Or you can just do the mass production like I am right here. Okay, so let's let that set up a little bit. And let's start on with these blue tone ones. Let's go with the same blues as a foundation on all of these ones. This one's going to move into more of the green tones, but blue is a component of green, so you can use that same blue tone as a base coat for this one right here, just as we will do for these other two more predominantly blue ones, okay? Okay, so I'm a little heavy-handed and always get harsh lines. Yeah, well, you can do that, Sharita or Bonnie. If you're heavy-handed, then what you do is whatever you're stamping or applying, you just have less of it, right? So you can, if this is like really sopping wet and I go heavy-handed in there, it's going to give me a really hard mark, right? But if I take off a lot of the ink, we're going with a drier amount of it, and then you go on there, okay? But I always say, what I mean? Every one of us can really, you can handle like some different things. Just think about it like, I mean, would you be too heavy-handed if you had, let's say you were applying, I always kind of make this analogy. If we were applying like some makeup onto a 1.5-year-old's face, you know what I mean? Would we have a problem with being too heavy-handed? There's no way, right? You're going to adjust your pressure. So all of your cards are like a child's face. Not really, but you know what I mean? Think about it like that. So see, a lot of times people go heavier thinking they want to apply more tone. Or, see, okay, so this is a really light blue ink right here, okay? So this is as dark as this color really gets, okay? Now that's a really heavy saturation of it. You can barely see it, right? Now sometimes people, when they see my final result, they think, oh my God, that got like, it was like so much darker. So they want to go heavier with this color that they're working with, even though it's a really light tone to begin with, okay? So that's not this is just kind of about the buildup right here. So so I can go with the heaviest, hand of all time on here, but because it's so light, it's not gonna, you won't have any problem with it. So that's why you kind of work from light to dark like that, so that when you do get into the heavier, the darker tones, if you are heavy-handed in it, okay. Now let me just show you something here. So here's the darkest of blues right here, the Prussian blue that I stamped my imagery in, okay? Now I wouldn't jump to this color right here, but here's Prussian blue on here. There's a big Prussian blue mark on there, but look at this right here. See that right there? There's not going to be any problem. I see a little bit right there, but see like that? It takes like, it is like if you do those preliminary base coats and you kind of saturate your card a little bit, it is really, really hard to get and to not be able to eradicate an undesirable, too heavy of a hand mark on there, okay? Because it's just too malleable now. Okay, now, I mean, I might get to blue and, I've been working on other types of, intermediate blues in here. And if I'm doing this in the summertime when it's really dry and arid out, or if you're in, anyone in, I don't know, whatever, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Southwest, you know what I mean? If you're in an area that's really arid and dry, these inks are drying sometimes like 70% faster, okay? So what you do is if you're worried about getting a, too heavy of a hand and you're getting too heavy of a mark, it's because the paper's kind of dried a little bit with whatever ink you're using. Say I'm going with this heavy dark blue and I'm blending in like this. It's like, oh my God, it looks real, heavy-handed and awkward looking of an application. What you do is you just go back in with your lighter blue, and in the, if that was the color scheme, and you ink up here again, and then you give it another coating with that lighter color again, and then go to that darker color again and apply it in there. So that's what we did. Okay, so when I was doing workshops back in the day, like live ones, one of the things I did, we were working with pens, first, and then I worked with pads. But when I started just using, for my first tone of ink, instead of using like a pad version of a light blue, inking up, toning in like this, I just took some re-inker fluid and I put a little puddle of it, in their little ink palette that we were working with. And they applied, just like I did there, all of that preliminary coat. And there was never any kind of, difficulty in applying inks from then on. All right. Now, before that, I just taught them to have a little bit more touch, to their application. That looks really, really juicy there. So we would apply with a little bit more touch and delicateness, okay? But when we started using that amount of ink as that base coat, it was really hard to, to not be able to apply things really gracefully like that. Now, see, that was really, with that one right there, I must have just re-inked that pad fairly recently. Like that. But, it's all about the saturation. Okay, that was one of the things that I was just telling someone too recently. They said they tried a couple of my videos, okay, and they couldn't get the technique. So I think it was something, so if they were doing it like years ago when all of my techniques were glossy cardstock and dye-based inks, the thing that I know, well, I don't know for sure, but like 99% of all the areas of difficulty that people have run into before, it was the application of their inks. It was a little bit too awkward, and it's because their paper, they might not have been using glossy cardstock. They might have been using glossy photo paper. That was one of those things. But if it's glossy cardstock and dye-based inks like that, it wasn't enough of a base coat of color. You want to saturate your paper, not just color it. So most people are used to coloring it. It's okay, I got all my light blue or something like that on there. But it's not just that. You want to saturate your paper a little bit more and get some of the pulp of the paper a little bit moist, which makes it easy, to just blend those things out like that, right? Because it's just like, wet into wet is easier to blend than wet into dry, right? But look at that though, too. But it's not just that, though. The more of your base coat colors that you lay down, the stronger the glow and saturation. Now, if you work through all of your tones, we're going to be working through dark tones into these scenes like that. And if you get into your darker tones, and it's like, this happens with me all the time, too. It's like, that it looks a little anemic still, okay? We got a good range of tones, but it's just not as bright as I want it to look. Then you can just go with your lighter tones, or your medium tones, or whatever, or add in a new color, and just go right over the top of your, fully realized tonal range, okay? You know what I mean? You can just go back over it, as long as you haven't spray sealed the piece and, you can't add any more colors into that, any more inks onto it. All right, a lot of you have Copic markers too. You can do something like this, and then it's like, yeah, it's just not, I want to get it brighter in some areas. Okay, you can take your, go with a range of blue tones or something like that, and you can go right over the top. I'm not gonna do it right now on here, okay? Because if I add this alcohol ink on here, that's going to resist more inks, but I'll show you how you can do that too. Right over the tops of these. So you can go water-based and then alcohol-based on top of it, okay? Okay, but you see like this? This is like, what was this? This was like, well, this is like a little bit more than 2 colors right here, but you see that kind of glow that we're already working with right there? But see, I've already colored here, right? But see what I'm also doing, see, I'm going over this a little bit more after I've colored, because I'm not just looking for coloring, I'm looking for saturation and kind of glow. And the more you kind of put down up to a point, the stronger that glowing kind of illusion looks. I'm trying to retain some of the white areas in here too. Okay, so that being said, here, I should have been doing this while doing all this. Okay, I'm just gonna jump to this color right here on this one, but I'll go back and I'll add in my lighter blues underneath this. Hey, Bonnie, what brand of dyes did you get? Let's see. Vintage Scrap Girl pulled her clay boards out last week. Oh, that's cool. They are fun to work with, aren't they? Sharita, easy techniques are easy to do. I'm not doing some kind of illusion here, you know what I mean? That makes it look easy. The techniques that I taught in my workshop are easy techniques as long as you do them, though, okay? But I get where people don't do it. See, I colored down here, right? With this one coating of this ink right here. Now, most people, what they do is they see that colored in there, and that's all the ink they would apply in there, okay? But it's not. You want to apply a saturated amount in there. So, you know, the difference between making something easy and having it a little bit more precarious of an exercise is jumping too fast into those darker tones usually, okay? Or when it comes to surface types of compatibility, I'm doing this on a glossy cardstock, and I'm not doing it on matte, okay? Now I can blend on matte like this too, right? You know what I mean? But I mean, it's not too bad. It's wrinkled right here, but you can apply this like this. But if you go and you try to get it too fast like this, right? That's going to be a really harsh mark on there. And if it's on a dry piece of paper, that's going to be stuck on there, right? So the more sealed the paper, the more of the base coat ink that you use, the easier it is to apply. Well, it's easier to blend. Okay, so here I'm going with it. Now see, that was one coating right there. And it was a pretty full coating of it right there, right? But see how much deeper of a saturation I can get with that other amount like that. But now this paper right here is still kind of dry. So I'm going to hit it again. Let me see if I can get it. Now see, that gets even darker. So I can tell I haven't achieved like the full saturation of that that one given ink right there. So you can apply more. But now watch this now. See that? That's kind of applied like I did up there, but this is on glossy. So you can just kind of blend that out like that with no problem. All right. Retention of light in there. Look at that like so. This one's going to go a little bit more in the violet tones too. I remember. Let's tone that little area out up there so I have more attention on the nebula. Like that. Laura's not in here, is she? Laura from it's not in her name, or her YouTube tag, but I've mentioned in the past she does astronomy with her husband, And they had all kinds. I said, I want to see some of your photos that you took. So she sent me a link to it. And man, they have like so many like different nebula images. It's like I had no idea that I don't know. They're like practically professional, like hobbyists. You know what I mean? Could get that type of imagery. I don't know. I thought the types of imagery they were taking were like I don't know. You had to go like to a big observatory or something like that. But I don't know. There's all kinds of nebula and different ones in their whatever their online portfolio. Okay, greens right here. Okay. All right. Now this is here. I'm gonna go with that blue again on here. Okay, let me switch here just so you can see it from scratch here. Okay, so when you guys are doing it, just make it easier on yourself. This is what I'd recommend if you when you're getting inks too. So if you're getting different types of inks, I usually got pads, of course, like anyone else. But over the last few years, if it's a type of ink that I don't have, okay, and if I'm only going to be using it to do tones, I should use this one right here. Ground espresso. I should use the ground espresso on this one right here. But if it's not some kind of color that I'm going to be making my impressions from, and I'm just going to use it to color my scenes with, be it paper towel or whatever, sponging, I just get the re-inker for it. There's probably, I don't know, 3 times as much ink or 4 in a bottle of re-inker fluid than there is on a pad. And the re-inkers, this isn't the re-inker for this, but these re-inkers are the same price as the pad, right? But you get like way more ink for it. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take up as much space. You don't have to get the pad and the re-inker, unless you want to or something like that. It is convenient to have the pads, but I don't know, like space is an issue for me, and I can fit a bunch of re-inkers right on my desk. I'm not gonna grab it right here, but okay. So this is that really light blue, and I can't really see it very much. Well, you can see it a little bit right here. Okay. But see, what I'm doing what this is achieving is it's giving me a good amount of coverage right here, and it really saturated the page like instantly because just a few drops of ink on this goes a long way, and I'm applying the right amount of ink onto the surface that's going to allow for a really easy application of my other tones to come. And now when I add, my next color to this, let's go with the light blue right here. Now when I add this into that, this ink right here on this is a combination of this ink and the previous one. So it's giving me a little bit of an intermediate version or something in between those two inks like that. Okay, now see this right here. Go around like that. And then we have that. Now I'm going kind of darker on this one too, like I said. If I had like open imagery down here, this would be a lot lighter, but I want this one to be pretty dark right in here. Okay, so we have our 3 pieces like this. Let's go with, let me see if this blue here is inked up enough. This might be like completely dry. No, it's a little bit, it's usable here. I didn't re-ink this pad right here. It's totally like concave. Right here. Okay, now when you get to here's the thing. When you get to your darker tones like this, be a little bit more kind of perimeter oriented, okay? Now this is where people lose all of their lighting too, okay? It's because we get sweeping and filling in these areas really fast with our lighter tones of ink, right? Because a lighter tone of ink over the top of clouds or light sources or something like that, it's just going to be a very light tone over the top of them. But now when you're applying a color that's almost as dark as the colors that you applied you stamped your imagery in, you could kind of eradicate, not only your imagery, but all of your lighting right here. So here's my lighting right here. It's going from light, darker, darker out here. So with the darker tones, you just stay a little bit more perimeter oriented like this, okay? When I see a lot of people doing those, they do this. And I mean, it looks okay, like just like that, okay? Oftentimes it's with black though. But it looks a little bit better if it's kind of more, okay, I kind of forgot the word I'm looking for. It's varied. You're going from darker tones to lighter tones like this. So what you do is you just stay on the outside a little bit longer like this, and then you kind of take a shorter stroke like that. Now I kind of wipe that one in there because I did that big old blob in there just to make a point, okay? So it's like maybe the earlier ones are like this, okay? With your lighter tones, but then when you get into your darker tones, just kind of do it like this. As opposed to that full coverage like this. And when you go like this, okay, as opposed to this and then up, you won't get a harsh mark on there too, okay? And see, this is the exact same process right here. If I turn this like this way, not with the moon, but there's your aurora borealis type of textures like that. You turn them vertical. By the way, that aurora borealis, if anyone wants to do kind of like a good kind of coloring kind of exercise, that's an excellent one for that. It gets you to do these kind of sweeping types of varied marks like that. Okay, we have that one. I think that one will look good with a little Prussian blue in there. I'll try to vary each one of these a little bit from each other, so it's not just like two of the same blue color schemes. Okay, let's do this one really fast. Did I say hello to Patty? Patty joined in a while back. Let's see. Hey, hello in Western Australia. Good to have you. The humble blending brush, aka the makeup brush, has taken over the stylist. Well, stylist tips were never something that a lot of people used to color in. Now, I don't like the blending brushes if I'm doing this amount of color application because it takes forever because makeup brushes aren't absorbent. They're made for dry, powdery media, makeup. They're not meant for like doing a slathered type of application. And makeup brushes are synthetic, so they're not absorbent. So they're kind of doing a little bit of the opposite. Now you can get these types of things like this, but it takes forever to do that. Now I do like the makeup brushes for kind of a lighter application where you're kind of more coloring. You are layering it, but you're not really doing that amount of saturation in there. But I do like the makeup brushes sometimes for doing like the perimeters on there, just because it's applying a lot less color. Not really for me, but if I was teaching it, it'd be a good way to do it just because people have them. And if if I was concerned about someone applying like way too much like black ink on the perimeter or something like that, I would just tell them to, use like a sponge or something like that for their initial colors, maybe the first two colors. And then maybe switch off to the makeup brush for maybe their darker tones, anything over like a 50%, so like a mid-tone color would be like this, but maybe for the darker blues and black to try, the makeup brush for that. But that's I don't know, people haven't really done that before though. We taught, like, I don't know, I probably taught, I don't know, maybe 3,000 people how to do like this before, and everyone got it, you know, even like kids in our booth. I didn't get like 10-year-old kids in my workshops usually. You know, we were all stampers usually, but I get kids in the booth and they would get it all. But it's because if you start them off with enough ink, you know, there's almost like nothing you can do wrong. And they were doing it on things like stamp boards, scratching into it, you know, doing all kinds of what people would think are the kind of more advanced techniques, but all the color saturations and everything like that. And it was all with the stylus tools at one point in time. You know, if you start them off with those reinkers, it just made it so much easier. Okay, so that was the blue on that. Let's go with the Prussian blue. Now I am going to go with the lighter tones on a couple of these, and we'll add in some other colors into them. But I'm just doing this for the sake of kind of, you know, expediency. But otherwise I would have added in my kind of, you know, light green that I'm going to add in. The character of this one's going to really change when I add in the colors that I'm going to add into it. Although I do kind of like the look of this right now. I'm thinking, do I want to change that? And I think I do. We'll add in a little bit and see what it looks like. How's everything going in the WA? Every time I send something else to Western Australia, you know, you write WA on there. But, you know, I always thought, I hope, you know, you always have like Australia underneath all that. But, you know, you don't want to go into like Washington. They're going to, you know, they're not going to mistake that for the US. But I don't know. Sometimes I used to think about that. Okay, so there we go with that right there. See this right here with the darker tone? Now I did go in there a little bit, but for the most part, the darkest of the blues are kind of a little bit more on the perimeter. These are really going to pop too when I get into that black in here, and we'll do that too. Okay, so this is the Prussian blue on here. Not a huge, you know, change in value from the previous blue. But again, it's not because a lot of those other blues are in here. It's not just straight Prussian blue that I'm applying here. And it's getting a little bit saturated in here, so not as much of this is applying as fast. But again, that makes it easy for me to blend out something that was, you know, could be an unintentional mark in there. So, okay, so here's the starkest of blue, right? And you know, we're talking about, okay, I make it look really easy. Well, going through all that kind of preliminary work in there. Now I'm going to use like the worst technique possible, okay? That's freshly inked on there, right? But see, right there, you know, I can just blend that mark out if I want to. And plus it didn't show up too much because it's already a little bit dark, but see, like that, and then you can just kind of blend it out like that, okay? Don't do that, but you know what I mean? So here's my like heavy-handed. It's like invisible in there because I can just blend it out. Now this is getting a little bit anemic in here though. Here, let's go back to this lighter blue. So this is what I was talking about. Sometimes, let's see, is that getting a little bit brighter right there? I can see it right here. I think that's a little bit richer right there now. Sometimes Marvy inks don't do this on me, but when I combine like some of those inks with, in this case, it's the Ranger inks, they dry kind of dull looking, okay? Now, I don't need to worry about that because I'm going to spray seal all of these. So even if it dries a little bit duller looking, when you spray seal them, it'll bring back the vibrancy of, you know, of how it looked when it was still freshly stamped and colored, okay? A lot of times it even looks even more saturated though too. Okay, So we have that in here. Okay, so we have, did I use the, I don't think I used, did I use the Prussian on this one? I'm already forgetting what I already applied on here. Okay. It's been balmy here where I live. Winter would normally begin around right now. You guys, see, we're having a lot of rain, of course, down here. You guys are warmer up there. And of course, you guys had all those wildfires up there, you know, across Canada in general. But I don't know. I worry about these changes of patterns. Okay, here goes the Prussian blue. I can tell when applying this to this page is getting a little bit drier because my application of the ink feels a little bit different. So again, now if you're just working on one piece, that's not going to happen to you usually, but I'm working on like four pieces right here at the same time. All right, let's go with the green here. This one is called light green. There's a distress ink green. What was it? Yeah, right here. Peeled paint. Let me try some peeled paint in here. It's a little bit dull, you know, in comparison to this one that's really super hot. But let's just see what it looks like. So a little bit more of an aged kind of lime green, okay? At its wettest point, I start in the darker areas because it's going to be applying more. And then as I'm going like this, it's getting drier and drier on here, right? And then I take that into my lighter areas. Okay, so I'm not going with like a super wet, heavy application of that green. And that's brighter than I thought it would be. See how like different that looks? Now maybe I'll just do it right there. I think this looks pretty good, just having a little bit more of a bluish tinge, and then we'll go a little bit warmer up here. Like that, or in the light like that. I think that looks pretty cool. Let's do that. Let's, okay, that was the peeled paint. Let's go with the light green right here. And, okay, again, it's a little combination of light green and peeled paint, so Ranger and Marvy here. So it keeps getting a little bit more intense right in here and kind of deep. All right. Now it looks a little bit imbalanced because that is so saturated over here. So let's bring a little bit of this right around here, I think. It was getting really intense over here where this was kind of cool, just blue like that, but it needed a little bit more of a, kind of a little bit more of balance. I'll keep this just blue down here though. All right, bottle green. This is the green that I used to mix with purple, the number 8 purple. Marvy purple to create that dark tone. I think I was just mentioning that last week in the live stream. Okay, the stylus, that would be great. The good old times. Yeah, yeah. Boy, I wish ClearSnap were still around. ClearSnap, you know, they were a big manufacturer in this industry. But one time at one convention, Carson convention, which is the Los Angeles convention for, you know, stamp conventions, one time they attended I mean, they might have attended other shows before that, but the one show that I saw them at, probably around 87 or 88 maybe, they had a really cool booth that was made of like all this foam core board, and I forgot what they made. It was like some kind of construction. Maybe the foam core big thing was like a sculpture or something like that of a rubber stamp. I can't remember what it was, but I remember it was foam core, the sculpture. Look at that green in there. Isn't that cool? By the way, so this is where like some of these things start to come together too. It's when you go back to that color that you've utilized on your initial impressions right there. But on this one, it really is bringing it together because this is kind of dark in here. So I'm bringing that same kind of darkness around here. And I haven't even gotten to the black yet. The black will really kind of make these pop a little bit more. Okay, but look at that deep saturation. Doesn't it look like, you know what I mean, a reasonable some depth in there? And of course, it's a two-dimensional piece of paper, but that's where kind of layering your colors if you want to do that, which I haven't been doing, a lot lately. I've been working with like, very shallow, illusions, working with like, the wood grain paper or something like that, which I like that look too, a lot. But you can't beat these, that illusion of depth and richness that layered transparent colors can bring. All right, let's go back to this one right here. Was that the one that I applied that with? It seems like really small. I don't think I used orange on here yet. When's the last time any of you did finger painting? Well, you can do it again. This almost feels like, I was mentioning in the past, this almost feels like finger painting. All right, let's see here. Let's jump to, I was going to go brown, but maybe I already used that. English red. I hardly ever use that color. Ooh, my gosh, that is really intense. I hardly ever re-ink this too. This might have been re-inked like 10 years ago for all I know, if that. It might go back even more. Needless to say, I don't live in, whatever, Phoenix. If you're in a really arid area too, one of the things I'd recommend, I mean, it depends what ink we're talking about and how often you're using certain inks. But as far as pads go, I think I might, with certain types of inks, I should probably do this with my StazOn ink, but I would seal, your pads in a, like a 5-gallon like freezer bag, Ziploc type of bag. I know everyone likes to have them all on display, and it might be too much of a hassle. But if you are losing a lot of your ink to evaporation, it might be something to consider. Like I said, unless you're using it, pretty often, or maybe you have the colors that you're using all the time out, but other colors that you don't use very often. If it's a pad. To throw them in a Ziploc bag. And if you really want to get, if you really want to conserve that your ink, what you can do is you can put in like cut a little piece of sponge or a little piece of paper towel, and you don't have it sopping wet, but you have a little bit moist, and you throw that in with the Ziploc bag. All right, this is getting really, really super juicy. Let's see if I can apply one more on here. Let's go with the dark brown. The dark brown, that was the one that I stamped out my imagery in. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Bonnie has a lot of alcohol inks. Try your alcohol inks, too, Bonnie. Or try to go dye-based inks and then blend with your alcohol inks. Sometimes you can get, additional layers on there or something like that with the multimedia. And then if you spray seal those, you'll see this like really, I'm guessing, because alcohol inks are also transparent. So you'll be able to benefit from the addition of both. Now, it is possible to kind of muddy up, some applications of tones by going with too much stuff. Usually if it's like, I don't know, what is it complementary colors or something like that across from each other on the color wheel. I forget which one it was. Sometimes, like I'm getting a little bit of a glow here, or a deep glow, but if I go with like, on this one, I think it would be green or something like that. If I put green over here, I don't know. It depends on what version of it too, but it can get a little bit muddy. But for the most part, with the like transparent colors, you can layer them up pretty well. That's an old technique that they used in like I think, does anyone know anything about like art history? I think it was like the I forgot what is it? Those painters that did like really super realistic things. They call them, I think, trompe-l'oeil, where you can reach in there and grab like a apple out of a still life or something like that. I think like Rembrandt was one of those. But they would do transparent dye, not dyes, but transparent oil washes. Like, they would put like, I don't know what it was, 40 layers of transparent colors over the top of one another. There were oil paints. And that's what gives it that super rich, glowing kind of, look. All right, so there's the brown in there, and that's the same color that we stamped. You don't see my brown going on here very dark. Okay, because this paper is really kind of wet at this point. Okay, with my additional tones in here. So I'm not getting a really super strong foundation like that. Now, sometimes I want it to go faster, but that's the trade-off. The ease of application and blending and, the practical... I'm practically unable to get a mark on here that's not going to be desired, okay? Like I said, I can go like this, into the paper, and that'll just blend right out because it's moist enough to where it allows me to do that, okay? So that being said, just if it gets kind of clunky in terms of your application, especially with the darker tones, just go back with the lighter tone and get a little base coat down there and just go right back in again with your darker tone. And it'll be really easy to blend these. People don't have problems blending out like the first couple colors that are really light. It's when they get into these darker tones and maybe, when the paper starts getting a little bit dry or something like that, that's when it can get a little bit clunky. And I say that because those are the ones that are going to be the most kind of obtrusive looking. It's not going to be like, a color that's like a 5% blue or something like that in terms of darkness. It's going to be a really dark color that's going to really stand. Look at my fingertips right here. That's going to really stand out. Like if that, that tone right there was kind of a little bit clunky or something like that, or black especially, right? That's what people don't want to see, is like a really heavy application of something really dark and obtrusive. But you just make it where, it's really hard to get, a mark that you don't want with those darker tones. So just keep your page a little bit moist. Okay, so let's go in here. Let's go in. This one's ready for black. Okay, here's my black dice. And again, you know, when you go to a color that's pretty dark, you know, be a little bit careful about your application of it. There it is right there. I'm going to blend it out a little bit, okay? And I'm going to use a lighter touch with it. Now my black pad is pretty juicy too, because I just re-inked it, I think, you know, fairly recently. I kind of over-inked it a little bit. It occurred to me. I think it was right before a live stream, almost like maybe it was 2 weeks ago, when I was doing some stamp sketching. It's like, oh my god, that was like way too much. Okay, now with the darker tones, you become much more perimeter oriented, so I don't do too much of it. So, you know, when you get down to black, it's not going to be, you know, it's going to be very fast, because I'm just doing it like in the corners and a little bit in the darker stuff areas like that. So it just makes the lighter things stand out a little bit more. So right in here, it went from right here to about right here. This was a little bit of a lighter cloud, so I'm just leaving it light. Right here, it's like right here. But it's not like that amount of black right there. It's kind of more of like a grayish tinge, you know. That just makes it a little bit darker, okay? So you have, when you go like that, if you make your certain area a little bit darker, anywhere on your page, it'll make your lighter areas one step or that much lighter in appearance by contrast, okay? So sometimes if we've made something like, oh my god, you know, my moon disappeared in here because I colored it over, which I didn't want. I'm just saying in theory, what you do is you just make the areas around it a little bit darker. And, you know, you can go on here with a perimeter tone like that. See this little darkness like that? That makes that area seem a little bit lighter, but it also makes that area or that object a little bit lighter too by contrast. So, you know, if you ever want to lighten something up in an area, it doesn't have to be some kind of subtractive process or bleaching process, you know. You just make some other area of your scene a little bit darker. It doesn't have to be toning in. I could put like a hanging branch right around here or something like that. And, you know, if that moon is lighter than, you know, silhouetted branch or something like that, it'll seem lighter too by contrast. This is like, you know, when I'm talking about all this stuff too, this is one of the reasons why I always say, you know, to people, like sometimes people go into something with like a specific mission, okay? Especially if they're copying something. Okay, oh my god, I made my moon like way too dark, and, you know, Kevin didn't do that on theirs or something like that. But I always recommend you just kind of keep working your scene and then do it to completion. And, you know, if I made this too dark or something like that, then I'm just going to go with it, you know. I'll bring in other objects around it, and I'll make, you know, the other rounds, you know, darker, you know, something I didn't intend to do, but I'll just kind of go with it. So you can start off with like a kind of an idea or something like that, but if it, you know, there's like some kind of like a detour or something like that that comes into it, just kind of work that, you know, work whatever happened in there, or just complete your scene, you know, with, you know, your imagery and things like that. And oftentimes, you know, the thing that you did, whatever, you know, 10 minutes before, 15 minutes before, it's just like buried in imagery anyway, and you can't even see it. So if something's like bothering me right here, well, if the cactus is, you know, right over the top of it anyway, it's like it didn't even matter. Okay, so right here, a little bit of the black. I can't apply too much of this darker black by wiping, I'm finding, because this one's still a little bit wet, so I'm tapping it on here like that. And you get that amount of saturation like that. See that right there? It's a little bit of that vignette. Now, if I stamp my imagery and I think, oh, I want to kind of contain things even more, you can just, you can do this right over the top of your imagery. Okay, so there's not... Things are a little bit more of a circular process. It doesn't have to be like a linear process. Okay, like I said, if I want to add in more yellow on this, if I want to make it more vibrant or something like that, you can always do that at this point in time. Or like I said, be really specific about it. I want that little area in there yellow. Well, if I don't want to go back and get another paper towel or something like that, I'll just do it with, an alcohol pen or something like that. Okay, let's see. Janet has bottle green. Good. Oh, look at this black right here on this one. Look at that deep tone right up there, like that. Bonnie doesn't have to worry about her pads drying out in South Carolina. See, it's like the opposite of, going out to like, like the Southwest, or you know what I mean? Like I said, I was shocked when I was demonstrating out in Arizona. In Arizona, it's not just Arizona. The convention center in Mesa, Arizona. They always have the air conditioner like blasting in there. I'm sure it's set to something, but I think the thermostat is like out in the lobby or something like that. Maybe where the doors are open, so it's a lot warmer in there. So we're always like freezing in there, but it's always like super, super dry because of that air conditioning is blasting. People are going out and getting their jackets and stuff like that out of their cars. There, every time we tell them, hey, can you turn down that air? It's like they don't have the ability to do that. Like literally. Okay, going a little bit more black on this one. Like about like so. I call this tipping the edges right here. Okay. And this right here, I should go in with my violet before I go in with black here. But I'm going to add a little bit of violet into this one. Or pink. Okay. I didn't do any glossy cardstock for a long time. At least on a regular basis, but I did it, I don't know, when it was like a couple live streams, or I don't know, maybe it's a month for all I know, ago, and it was like, it was kind of fun to do this again. Because I usually don't get that, degree of kind of saturation in there. It's not that I like this better or anything like that. It's just different, a different type of look. And when I have been doing this type of process right here over the last, I'd say, I don't know, maybe it's been a year or something like that. I've been kind of using more of the semi-gloss because I find that it's easier to get the semi-gloss than it is the glossy cardstock, even in Canada, I mean, you used to be able to find like glossy cardstock anywhere. A lot of it was because, this pink will look really good on this. There were stamp stores, and I don't know if scrapbook stores carried it too, but definitely stamp stores all carried glossy cardstock. So even if you couldn't source it like by the ream or something like that, you can easily get it in a stamp store. It was also one of those standard things everyone carried. Now, I don't know where they were getting at. Maybe we need to get a hold of some, stamp store owners, and see where they sourced it. See, there's that pink in there. See that little straight pink right in there? Okay, but here's this. Now, this might not be the here. I think I went over some of that black right there, so it picked up some of that right there. But what was I going to say? I forgot what I was talking about. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I found that the semi-gloss, they call it dull or satin. Those types of cardstocks were a little bit easier to find for some reason, like listed, like on mail order companies mostly. You know, because I was doing my search online for people. I was trying to help people find things like glossy cardstocks, like, you know, in Australia or, you know, New Zealand or something like that. So I was trying to find paper sources, and it was like really hard. Because it's just not, it's not one of those types of materials that a lot of people use, you know, in everyday life. They don't, you know, we don't have a reason to get glossy cardstock. Okay, so there's a little bit of pink in there. Now this pink right here is not the ideal pink because it's a little bit of a warm pink. So let's go into our violets here. Okay. This is like a, by the way, this is like a 5 color in one ink applicator. That's not bad. I mean, this is like one paper towel. I probably could have got all these cards with like one paper towel right here. Okay, this is a really pale violet right here. Okay. So I'm going into that a little bit because it was a little bit too stark for me. Looking at it now. Okay. And now, this is like really extreme usually, this violet right here. It's really kind of dark, and it's not too bad, but maybe it's because I'm doing it with the lighter violet on there. Okay, so again, just be careful about that. Yeah, it's pretty dark. And we'll come down here like this. This pad's like super dry too. Okay, and I think that should do it on our backgrounds. I could go a little bit more. If I was just doing like one, you know, card, I'd probably go a little bit more. But here's a little bit of this pink right here. Okay, it's a little bit of a warmer pink. So you come in here and do this, then you can hit it with, you know, a blending pen if you want to. Okay, so see that little bit of a tinge of a little bit of a brighter pink. Here's a little bit of a duller one like this, and I can blend this out a little bit. Now, if you're doing this on glossy photo paper, you can really blend these colors around a lot on that type of paper. On this, it's kind of, you know, it's on there. Let's see on something like this. Let's see what this looks like right here, just for the sake of it. So let's go with a little bit of this. I don't know, is that showing on camera for you guys? I don't know if that looks, if you can tell the intensity of that mark right there. See, it's like much more intense than over here. And that's just putting, you know, some yellow over the top of it. You can see I'm doing my little squiggles, so it didn't pick up any of that ink that was down there because that's water-based ink. Let's go up here a little bit, like this. Look at that intensity right there. It looks pretty good. Now, I'm not putting any down here because I'm going to stamp most of my imagery down here. In fact, I'm hoping that, you know, I could use a StazOn for my imagery over the top of that and not worry about that. But, well, let's see how this goes here. I'm wondering if dye-based inks over the top of that alcohol ink are going to stick to that. Maybe I should use I don't need to use my Brilliance, but maybe I should try. I'm going to experiment with this hybrid black ink, I think, on here. Okay, let's see. To use the Inker 2. Yeah, use the Inker, Sharita. No, no, don't go with a huge slathering of it, but you know what I mean. Get a good amount down there, and then re-ink with that re-inker on there if it's getting a little bit too dry for you. Okay, let's see how my inks will work when I move from humid Florida to Michigan. I have a feeling you won't have too much of a, extreme change there, Patty. Maybe it'll dry in Michigan 20% more. Well, I'll tell you, when I went from my place right here to that convention center in Mesa, though, things were drying. I It was drying 4 times as fast. I'm thinking about that because I used some of the VersaFine. I was doing some VersaFine images on top of my glossy cardstock for foregrounds, I think it was. And those impressions were drying within like a couple hours, where for me here, sometimes I was doing VersaFine foreground images. Yeah, I don't know. I do them last, and when I'm at home, and I can just let it sit around for a while and have it dry. But out there, it was dry like the same day. It was insane. Not even the same day. It was like a couple hours later. And it wasn't the VersaFine Clear that I was using at the time. It was the VersaFine. And that VersaFine is an oil-based pigment ink, so it's an oil-based ink that dries slower, and it's a pigment ink, so it's like a lot thicker. But it was fine. It was amazing. Okay, let's see how these things look with some imagery right over the top of it. Okay. Oh, let me see. I was thinking about doing some splatter painting. Maybe I won't do the splatter painting on here. I'm going to add in, some additional things on these pieces in another video, maybe. But I want to just get the basics down like that. But some little bit of stars up here, kind of in a little splatter painting, would look really cool, I think. But sometimes when you do that splatter painting, when you stamp an image over the top of it, that little splattered, Dr. Martens dot star kind of shows through a little bit, which isn't really a big deal, but you just take a black pen and color it a little bit. Okay, so testing out the hybrid black ink on top of the glossy cardstock. Let's see how the impressions look. I want to go for some nice, super dark, thick impressions, considering how, dark our backgrounds are right here. This one right here would look cool if I stamped the Seaside Cove down here and made this an ocean. Which I'm sure I've done a gazillion times, though, so I won't. I'll do the cactus in that one, but that's a little bit. It's a little bit watery right there. See that right there? Okay, let's go for. I mean, it looks okay, but that's a little bit watery. So again, hybrid inks have that pigment ink in there, so they're a lot thicker. So maybe I need to go with something thinner for a darker impression. Let's go with this again. And I'm looking at my other imagery. Let's go with the dye-based ink, and let's go with the same Joshua tree here. I'll go a little bit lower right here. Okay, now see, I stamped this one out. I mean, you guys probably can't see it too well, but this side there's a little bit more ink, and this side there's less. It kind of like came off like a vacuum because the surface is a little bit wet. So we didn't get a lot of that ink transferring on that side. So this side's a little bit lighter, which is kind of okay because it goes from dark to light like that, and the light source is on there, so it might look like those branches on there are a little bit in the lighting or something like that. But I'm going to take advantage of this being a little bit lighter than what I wanted it to come out as. Again, it's just kind of plain and, plain, the cards you've been done. Yeah, that one is like much darker than that. Can you see how much darker than that one is in this one? This is like a 95% gray or something like that. This one's like a 90% gray or 85% gray. So I'm going to stamp something out in front of this that's going to be darker than this one. So that one's going to be pushed back a little bit. It's going to recede visually. Okay. So if something comes out a little bit too light for you, lighter than what you had hoped for, then just take advantage of it and create depth in front of it. So let's go with I'll go with an Ocotillo here. Something that's going to go in front of it, but not kind of obscure it too much. Oh, I just thought of this too. Will the dye-based ink apply over that wet hybrid ink? I don't know. It might not. I don't feel like grabbing pulling out the stays on though. The stays on will pretty much stamp over anything. Okay. I have a smaller Ocotillo with it. Let's go with the larger one here. Hello, Jeannie. I have tiny round blending brushes like makeup brushes, but they really grab ink. Oh, excellent, Candy. Always humid in the summer in Alabama. You're not worrying about those inks drying there then, huh? One of the things, okay, so when I was stamping out in Arizona and those inks were really drying for me really good, I thought, my God, I need to move out to Arizona, because I like that drying time. But on the other hand, it doesn't make for the application of the colors easier by having, the inks dry so fast for me. So if I was if I was out in Arizona, I would be stamping, I would be using more of my base color re-inker fluid on my paper, before going to the next color. I think I'd probably be using twice as much ink out there. All right, so there's the Ocotillo. So that came out okay. It looks like it's in front of that Joshua tree to me. Okay, or just fine. Let's go with, here's another Ocotillo here. I'm going to go for let me see if I can do this. I'm going to go for a lighter impression of this. I wonder if I just kind of stamp it fast, if it would do that, or if I have to remove some of the ink off here first, like going like this, and then stamp it in there. The problem is I want it fairly dark because that background is really dark in there. And I don't want those clouds to look like it's showing through my imagery in the foreground. So let's just go like this. Let's go like that and up. Yeah. That seemed like it's stamped darker than this one that I held down for a lot longer for some reason. I don't know. Maybe this area in here was just drier to begin with because it was a little bit lighter, so I didn't, cover it with as much imagery. Maybe that's what it was. This imagery right here would look cool with one of those word stamps up there, stamped in gold like I did on another piece. But let's do this up there. I think I could stamp this bird and have it show, or is it too dark in that background? Okay, I'm going to hold off on this one, actually. I want to add some little stars up here, and I might do like a little crystal up there somewhere. Okay, so there's my dark imagery right there. Huh. That looks like a Sometimes people tell me, "Oh, yeah, it looks like a photograph." I've never really thought that any of my pieces look like a photo, but that one kind of looks like a photo to me. A background like that. First time in 70 years, our 9K canal did not open for Oh man, only for 3 days. So that's not good. Okay, let's see what we do with. I'm going to hold on this one right here. Let's do this one right here. All right, this is looking a little anemic to me. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do for this. Is Sharita still watching? What happened to that cloud stamp here? I'd say Sharita just started, like crafting in general and stamping, so. Okay, now see, I can't really see. This is looking a little anemic to me. This area between here and here. I mean, I can see some variation in there, but it's not very interesting, okay? So I stamped out my Milky Way and cloud in that Prussian blue. If I stamp out the cloud right here in Prussian blue, it's not going to show up at all, right? So let's go one step darker, and let's go with this black ink right here, okay? So remember, I stamped out my imagery first, and I colored it in, right? Well, with sky imagery, if something disappeared or whatever, now it's not going to look, this cloud, I'm not going to stamp it out there, and those cloud billers aren't going to be white in there, right? But I can get this texture going in here like this. I just wiped off this portion right here. And I'm going to bring it like this in here. And just hopefully get some of these textures in here. Now, the color of this cloud is going to be the color of that background in here. But let's see if this black, cloud stands out at all. See like that? See, does that look better now? And let's do that again. Right in here. Okay. I'm not gonna go all the way down here because I'm gonna have my imagery down here, and I want like a black, cacti or cactus, against a really dark cloud because we're not gonna be able to see the cactus then, okay? But up around in this area, let's add this kind of textural, soft depth, with the additional cloud stamps in here, okay? Or cloud texture. So see, every time I'm doing this, I'm wiping off the edge of the cloud here. The cloud is, with the billows, are always facing the light source. So when it was over here, it's this way. And over here, it's this way. One of the things that one of my customers said they did, because they're using a unmounted version or the cling foam version of this cloud right here. But if you have the unmounted version, sometimes, you're looking at this thing like this and say, hey, what way's up and what way's down or whatever, what way's facing the light, okay? So on your rubber die, okay, that you have, it's just the rubber, make an arrow pointing up, or, in this case, whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be up, facing, arrows going down. Like if this was above my light source here, I was stamping it this way. So you have an arrow on the back of your rubber or something. I don't know, do a little something designation. It could just be a dot and always have that dot kind of facing, you know what I mean? So you know what direction your lighting is, or your cloud lighting is coming from, or not coming from, but pointing at. Okay, so even like right here, I'll just for an extreme right here, I'll just put a little bit of this cloud right here on that. Okay, so we get that now. So doesn't that look like a little bit deeper like that? And that's going back. And this nebula here, nebula, they look, nebulae, is that the plural? They're more intense like that, but I'm going to wait till this dries, and I'm going to hit it with some alcohol ink coloring in there. Okay, I'll figure that out. I'll get some pinks and some other blue tones in there. Okay, so this is, this way's up and this way's down, so we're going portrait on this one. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a longer imagery in the saguaros, I think, here. Yeah, I think this is the block that my block that happens to fit this. Here we go. I got this right here. With these cactus imagery, I gotta get it. Sometimes I don't get it straight. Let me see, is that straight? Or is that kind of straight like that? Okay, and this is going to have a little bit more surface. I'll add in some surface texture down there too. Bloody hot. Temps here in the 30 to 40 degrees Celsius range for the last 4 weeks. I always ask people this, Nicole. So is that like out of the ordinary then for this time of year? Let me see. 2 more weeks, summer, 2 more. Oh. Okay. So I have those right here. Look at that side of that cacti. And it almost looks like it's being illuminated for some reason. I have another block somewhere. Oh, yeah. Here it is, right here. I never used this like really thin block for anything. It was like perfect for this saguaro. So, Nicole, do you have to use the air conditioning all the time? Yeah, these ones are very intense, Sharita, if you're referring to the pieces here. Oh, Patty. Good night to Patty. The dye-based I got are from Okay, I've heard those are excellent. Hello, Deanna. I'm going for these jeweled nighttime types of pieces, which I've been... So I wanted to see what these images look like with those really deep nighttime types of scenarios. So you took care of that for me. It was like, oh, good, Deanna did those. Check out Deanna's pieces on... Were those all pastels that you did, with the like the lightning and the other, nighttime types of what one were they? Oh yeah. You had the one with the organ pipe cactus in there. I think he used the vulture in the background too, but were those 100% pastels? Let's see, I need a little bit of foliage down here. Let's do this right here. It's a little bit like ground cover right here. Okay. And our minimal masking technique right here. Trompe-l'oeil, the art of illusion, yeah. I think it meant to, yeah, to fool the eye or something like that. I thought was the meaning of that. I should do a little turtle walking around down here. I don't think I left room for him though. Okay, a little bit of a ground texture in here. Something like that. All right. And let me go for a little bit more layering here with the reeds, kind of holding the this down for a little bit longer because we did get a huge amount of saturation going on down there. Okay, yeah, this one I want to add more to that nebula. The nebula shouldn't be like that white. Oh, another thing I want to do too on these pieces was I want to give some of that white pigment ink kind of texturing around some clouds or on some stars to make them kind of glow a little bit more. I'll keep these out like this with an eye shot. See all these, I like the looks of these, right? You know, for this type of thing, you know, I like to go for glossy cardstock. I mean, you can do anything on the glossy cards, you know, glossy cardstock scenes don't all have to look like this, you know, with a huge amount of layered tone or anything like that. But that's the way I like to use glossy cardstock because I think it really kind of, it kind of showcases its, you know, its capabilities in terms of some extremes. In this case, extremes of whatever, color surface retention, you know, media retention, you know, your inks aren't getting absorbed as much, you know, into the pulp of the paper. So the more surface retention of, you know, transparent media, you know, the brighter, you know, and more saturated your colors can appear. Now play around with this too. You know, different card stocks, especially with glossy, can be, you know, pretty different from brand to brand. I found one of the things with the semi-gloss card stocks, I didn't find too much of a difference like at all with those ones. Okay, and I've used about 4 different types in my day, and I would never know the difference between all of them. But one time, I have a video where I tried 3 different glossy card stocks. There were the 3 ones that Kelly Paper has right on the shelf, you know, in different sizes and different thicknesses, point sizes. But I was in there, you know, and you know, they have like samples of all of them, and I grabbed a sample of each of them. But I have a video where I show layering dye-based inks on all of them, and they were all pretty different in terms of we might not be able to tell the difference if we were doing like makeup brushes, you know, where the application of ink is a little bit lighter and softer, okay? But I could tell when I saturated the papers quite a bit with the ink layering that they look different. You know, the ink's kind of separated on one of them a little bit, and I can see this texturing when it dried. Like there were these little kind of, I don't know, little things like, it was not quite as extreme as like that watercolor technique where you put the salt on the page and you watercolor it, or you watercolor then throw the salt on there, and it like creates this little separation. But I could see that in the texturing, and it looked kind of cool. But you wouldn't want that if you didn't, you know what I mean? If you're going for a different look, but if you knew that that was going to happen and you're using that, for to specifically get that type of look going on there, that would be kind of cool. Okay, let's see here. Let's mix this up a little bit. Ocotillo. The first couple videos that I did, I kept mixing up all the names of the desert flora. Okay. Yeah, Linda, huh? We were talking about that, going back to some of the glossy. It was on that, what was that live stream, like, a few weeks ago or something like that. I don't know. It might have been more recent. No, I think it was like several weeks ago at this point in time. It's like there's like almost like 2,000 videos up on this channel, and I think the first, I don't know, 1,500, you know what I mean, are probably dye-based inks on glossy cardstock. Oh, I was gonna go with this organ pipe right here. I forgot to mount my rocks. Let's use some rocks. Oh, do I have a printout? I don't know if I have a printout. So to round out these, this desert system here, there's a couple things that, as I'm stamping, I've been stamping these out and, doing these stamp sketches and stuff with, ever since these desert images came out. But, I mean, we can go on forever with any different type of, scenic, system, whatever, biome or whatever. But on here, on these pieces, it's like, I wanted some things like a natural bridge for a foreground or something like that. And backdrops, especially, more kind of, southwestern styles of rocky, mountains. So I have a new set coming out. You say, hey, Kevin, we just got those other sets, you know what I mean? Well, I needed them, for my scenes, so I don't know. Yeah, I didn't print it out. I should have printed it out here, but you can go on our website, or I'll post something on Facebook or something like that. But it's in the new stamps. You can see set number 33. And there's like three different, there's like a, traditional, Four Corners, Monument Valley type of butte, sandstone butte. And then there's the more kind of craggy, rocky type of mountain range. And then I have, what else do I have? Oh, there's some bats. I tried to squeeze everything that I could into this third one. Because I wanted to kind of wrap up, at least for now, the desert system. And what else is there? Oh, there's a little cute little kangaroo rat. People are saying rat, it's really cute looking, those kangaroo rats. I used to see them out all the time. It's probably the most common animal that I've seen out in the deserts when I've been camping. because they always come out at nighttime, and if I'm kind of hanging around like a fire, they'll come out, and they're probably used to going around the campsites because people drop food and stuff like that underneath the table. So I don't know, it's probably like a main source of food for them or something like that. And I don't know, what else was there? Gosh, I can't even think of what else that I put on there. Oh, yeah. There's a ball, like a golden ball cactus image, and a agave, yeah, agave plant. Okay, so there's a little bit of texturing in there, like so. All right. I might put something out there in the background, but I might want to put like something, I don't know, an image of me hiking at night. I want to leave this little spot open in here, okay? Okay, so let me see here. Let's get one more imagery background done in here. This one goes pretty tall in here, and I'm not working around like a specific land area, so it's just going to be the foreground imagery in here. So let's go for a couple different images. Let's go with the Joshua tree and organ pipes. We have to go with something fairly strong in this background right here because there is so many dark areas in here, okay? And then these clouds got a lot darker than, say, something like, this light area down here or this light area down here. In other words, I don't think the ocotillos will show up in here, but not so much, because they're really spindly. So I want to go for something a little bit more solid like this, a little bit more of a bolder type of silhouette on here. Your sky stamps on glossy are awfully evocative, Deanna. One of the things that I really like about your nighttime types of scenes, it's now you don't have to do this on, what I mean, if you do stamp out some nighttime type of thing, but it's when you add in those kind of directional shadows in those nighttime scenarios, like you did that. Oh, I forgot I brought out my fences pieces. I was going to stamp out some. Oh, okay, I forgot about that. You did those like shadows against, like, I don't know what it was, like a moonlit sky or something like that on a road. And it was like, you know what I mean? That's some awesome stuff. Check out Deanna's stuff if you guys get online and go onto Facebook, or I don't know if I don't think you post like your older pieces on your Instagram account, do you, Deanna? You're just kind of posting your latest stuff. I don't know if you got your older stuff on there too. Maybe you gotta, you gotta post everything you have on your Instagram. Yeah. Okay. Organ pipe right here. I don't know if the organ pipes are kind of in the same areas as Joshua trees. Probably not. They're probably at different elevations completely, but we'll use them together here. One of the things about nighttime types of scenes is, I mentioned that where I use that word a lot, but evocative. I do think that nighttime types of things. I love daytimes or any time of day, sunsets and stuff like that, but kind of the ones that are kind of more saturated in tones. I do find them a little bit more, I don't know, whatever, evocative, in terms of whatever, visual, whatever themes, I guess, or depicting emotion. Then something like High Noon or something like that. Unless it's like a rainy high noon. Like weather things, I guess. Now, as saturated all these things got, too, if you've never worked on glossy, but this is all, completely dry to the touch here. So it doesn't stay like, moist forever or anything like that. Now remember, now after I'm stamping all this imagery on here, if it does, like I said, dry dull or something like that, you can go over it with, more washes or anything like that, or layers of color right over the top of that. If you're doing that over the top of black, though, sometimes the black, even though these are dye-based inks that I'm using on here, it can smear them a little bit. So what you do is you just, kind of dab on the color. Let's say if I wanted to use more of that, whatever, that peeled paint or something like that right over the top of that, you can do that. Okay, but just be, mindful, do a few dabbings like that. Check your sponge or whatever you're applying it with and see if any paint is, any ink is like coming off or smearing. And, it's going to be dependent on the brand of inks that you've used and paper. Some of them are a little bit more absorbent. Like I said, especially with the dye-based tones. This one right here, I think I'm going to splatter paint in some stars right in here, or maybe it'll just be done with the acrylic paint pens or something like that. Okay, we'll go with the little dinky organ pipe right here. I'll go real low with it right here. It'll represent something a little bit farther off in the distance like that. Okay. So like I said, I might add in some other things in here, some little visual focal points, animals or birds or something like that in here. I might go with like some word stamps up here where I've gone dark enough. I like going with like a reverse type of word stamp. On this one right here, I think it would look cool with like some sort of word stamp in here. I'm saying word stamps because I didn't leave room for like a quote or something like that on any of these ones. We'll format these and we'll get them mounted with a double mount or mat or whatever like that. Okay, here's that image again. You can see the difference between. So this is drying now. So look how much lighter the hybrid ink stamped out on here than the dye-based ink. I have a feeling that if I stamped out the StazOn, if it was a nice juicy StazOn, I'm sure it would have been really, really dark too. So the hybrid ink, not so much, but with the hybrid ink being that light, I was able to stamp the Ocotillo right over the top of it and make it look like the Ocotillo was in front of it, with it being a darker impression or image right over that. So on this one right here too, some gold little stars in the sky might be kind of cool. I've thought about the, we were playing around with some of the glitter types of things, so maybe some glitter up here. I don't know if I want to go with the glitter up here, the holographic glitters that I have. If I put that green holographic up there, it's going to be flashing like red and blue and all those other colors up there, which might look kind of cool, but I don't know. And right up here, I want to get this a little bit more saturated, and I think I can come in here with a lot more of a like starry textures in the background. I think that would look really good. But right in here, that's like some sort of little animal or something like that crawling around down there. And a lot of animals in the desert are nocturnal, of course, as am I. We used to do these some of these live streams at like midnight. Start at midnight my time here. Oh yeah, that's right, Linda. Yeah, you were mentioning stuff about skies before, huh? Just think about you're doing your skies. Just think about them as I don't know, like water. You know what I mean? It's the same technique. You do those areas of light and dark in your water. With several different areas. All it is I'm doing the same type of coloring, except instead of water texture in area, it's just around clouds or a moon or whatever that light source happens to be, or sky images like that. Yeah, I do like the. Yeah, that's what I was telling someone today. That was getting into that. I do like the colored pencil where, like, say, like down here. If this was on a semi-gloss, I think I would like to add in like a little tan color, or a little bit of greenish tan or something like that. Now, what I can do that with the like alcohol pens. I can add like subtle little different tones down there, earthy tones or something like that. But you can get a little bit more nuanced with the colored pencils on the semi-gloss. But the semi-gloss also retains a lot of the media on the surface. So it's a little bit of a, best of both worlds kind of, but it's just not as nearly as, I can't get that, that degree of, saturation on the semi-gloss. You know what I mean? But it's not like you're dropping out like 50% or something like that. I think it's like a, I don't know, whatever. The saturation and intensity might be like a 15% loss, but if you want to add in those colored pencils for like textural variations, the semi-gloss is going to be better for that, you know. And then if you're going with matte, then, you can do, like Deanna and a lot of you others use, pastels, which are amazing. Have any of you ever used like pastels over the top of like some dye-based inks or something like that? I'm curious about combinations like that. Maybe you wouldn't even need to do that if you're going in with the heavy pastels and it's going to cover it up anyway. But you might be able to go for some like, you know, interesting textural variations by using like a wet media, whatever, in conjunction with pastels in another area. I don't know where that would come into play, but it seems like there might be some kind of interesting kind of dynamics like that where you're working, or like watercolor, backgrounds or something like that with pastels on um, a matte, uh, foundation like that. I still have working Marvy pads, Chris. Yeah, a lot of people do. Um, a lot of them I could not use though for my impressions today because they're all kind of what about it, concave, right? I think a convex concave. I suddenly got those two mixed up, but yeah, a lot of them are they're depressed in the pad, but I'm just using it to color with. You know what I mean? So I don't care if they're kind of smushed down. I'm just not really using them to make impressions anymore. But yeah, these are a lot of the 20, these are probably 30 years old right here with the gold stamped tops. These are more of like the 20-year-old ones with the sticker on top like that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Janet's got those 20-year-old ones. And Janet, you gave away all your other ones, those 30-year-old ones, right? Yeah. Chris, I know what you're talking about with that grunge on there. Yeah. Not, it was like, I think it was my bubblegum pink one, not the rose pink, but the bubblegum one. And then these little things on there, nodules, I don't know what those are, but yeah, certain colors developed that. I always figured it was the chemistry of those specific colors like that. Oh yeah, yeah, Marvy pens too. I think the Marvy pens I had that more than the pads, but yeah. When I got that on the pens, I would just kind of wipe it off like that and just get those little things off of there if the tip was still okay. Most were pan pastels, but the Oregon cat. Oh, it was Marvy inks. Okay, got it. Perth is breaking records. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was cool. So I hope it's not the sign of things to come, but I'm thinking about all these weather extremes are, that's just going to be the new whatever patterns, if not getting a little bit more extreme. Good night, Janet. And good night, Chris. Yeah, we're done here. I tried to put all of you. I tried to knock all of you unconscious, but I didn't. I failed here. Where's Jeannie? I always put Jeannie to sleep. Set ready to go with the new images. Yeah, yeah. That new sheet will be coming out pretty soon. So yeah, Craggy, like whatever the Superstition Mountains, one of them's based on that, and I can't wait to use this natural bridge one. It like goes on the bottom of a scene, and then I left spaces up top so you can put like any type of like animal or person or something like that, so you can have a background of this desert types of imagery or something like that, or you can use these things in the foreground right here, and you have this natural bridge in there going in there. The natural bridge would also look cool in the water, though. It was like a water type of thing, like a shoreline thing. Like they have those, you know, like caves around, like in an ocean or something like that, or maybe even like not like ice caves in like the Great Lakes, but I don't know, you have that kind of erosion, kind of uh, coastal areas. But I'm looking forward to doing that. Yeah, your newer stuff. Yeah, 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 yeah. Gianna, yeah, if you think about it sometime, yeah, even if it's just on one upload, you know what I mean? Um, if you have those conveniently on there, and if anyone else on Instagram, follow Deanna with all of her pieces there. Go check out her papers and all that too. Hello, Bugs. When is set 33 ready for order? I'll put that up there this weekend. I wasn't sure when I was going to put that up for a pre-order special. I'll throw it up there this weekend. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't put that in there, Cynthia. I was wondering. I didn't know when I was going to release that, but I just got an order for some other stamps, and I thought, okay, I need to place an order with my rubber guy for some of that stuff. So I like to consolidate my shipping as much as possible to save on that. So what I save on that, we always pass it on to you guys. So anyway. Using dye-based first and pastel over the top, and it works well. Okay, that sounds cool. It seems like that's a good way to get like a good base layer going of something like that. Maybe of a warmer tinge like that, and you can build up your pastels. I've never worked with pastels before, everyone, so I don't know anything about that type of thing. I don't know. Pastels? No, yeah, maybe not since college, life drawing classes, but never like layered colored ones. It was like one or two colors, you know, sepia and black and white, I think. Oh, pastels on the ink sometimes. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'll have to get some tips from you guys as far as what surfaces you're stamping on too, and papers and things like that for the pastels. I really need to get into the pastels at some point in time. One of the things that I really liked was those hybrid inks. I should do a hybrid ink sometime in the background, because when I use those hybrid inks, it reminds me of using oil pastels in a way. Speaking of a completely different thing, but I really like that feel. Deanna, did you get? I don't know, Deanna. I thought you got some of those hybrid inks too at one point in time, or I don't know. One of you did. pastels over the inked backgrounds for adding extra glow source. That sounds cool. And like one of the things that I like doing too is I like going with opacity over transparency. So my use of white pigment ink, it's kind of in the spirit of adding pastels over something like that. I'm just doing it over, I'm not doing it over matte or something like that. I'm doing it over, but that's the spirit of it. But I'd like to really play around with, a media that's, inherently geared towards that type of thing. I like being able to add light over the top of dark, So I've only been able to do that with pigment inks to some degree. It's always translucent, and of course the acrylic paint pens, for opacity. But I want to be able to do it in a much more free type of application and varied application, and that's where those pastels come in. Not that like I already don't have a gazillion other things, I'm still working on like embossing and glitter, that I have to kind of unlock the whatever the little mysteries of, and as far as usage goes, getting into pastels now. So anyway, yeah, all the different pastels are so different. Yeah. I thought you were the one that, yeah, got the hybrids too. Yeah, they feel like you're painting, I really like that type of feel. So, yeah, and the pastels would be like even more so. So, all right, folks, I hope you had a good time here. Great to see you all. I'm going to come in here and I'll finish these off at some point in time. With some extra little touches. We'll bring these to life. Hopefully they already look kind of lively enough, but we'll really push kind of like some extra texturing and, I don't know, little lighting types of things. I think like in here, I think this would look really cool with a couple little bits of something. Now I'm thinking about glitter, these days, but like, if we I colored this a little bit, but little flashes of kind of like little glittery touches like around these light sources in here. I think that might look kind of cool, but maybe kind of minimal, as minimal as, a holographic metallic glitter can be. But I'm still looking for some other types of glitter too. I want some glitter that's just dedicated colors and maybe not holographic, because those holographic ones have like the entire rainbow in each little kind of tiny speck. So on this one, I'd kind of want it more thematic in the blues and greens or something like that. But yeah, I don't know, figure out something. All right, thanks everyone. Good to see you all. Hope to see you on the next live stream. If you're watching on Facebook and posting things, I don't have the, on my software here, it's only showing the Facebook comments. But if anyone had any questions on the Facebook Live that's simultaneously streaming here, I'll always go in there and answer anything that you've, if anyone asked anything. All right, everyone. Thanks again.